Stress is more fattening than chocolate. Ooh, girl, I be knowing. You don't even want to hear that. Or maybe you want to relax a little bit and have a little bit more chocolate. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. You don't need either one of those in any kind of quantity that is going to affect your life in a negative way. Period. There might be a little chocolate, little cacao, like the little nibs, a little non-sugar creamy thing added to them that might be beneficial for your body. And there might be a little bit of stress that is motivating. However, I'm going to share with you right now exactly how and why stress is actually more fattening than chocolate and how your thoughts are making you fat. No more. All right, so first things first, clearly what we're going to be talking about today is hormones, because hormones literally affect every single aspect of your life, from your mood, attitude, perception, sex drive, heart rate, if you're cold or you're hot, your desire to do anything, your motivation, your joy, your literally everything, your digestion, every single part of your body. Every single part of your life experience is regulated by hormones, all of them. So, what the hell are we even talking about? And how do thoughts create your body? All right, let's talk about what's really going on here on just a fundamental level and how we can begin to clear up our thinking so that it becomes easy and simple and natural for you to lose weight, to feel really great in your body, to get rid of those cravings, the frustration, the disappointment, because all of that is just a hormonal response as well. So let's talk about it. First things first, of course, we're going to have our cool little whiteboard. So basically, we are people. There you are right here. Let's give you a little happy face. I'm so happy. So what happens is that either from internal stimulus or external stimulus, we have some kind of a thought, right? We have some kind of a thought, and inside of the brain, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, a little bit over there, the thought rolls through. And if we give it any momentum at all, right, and it begins to attach to other thoughts, let's go with something like super negative, like, I'm not going to be able to follow this diet, might as well eat anyway, right? So that is not an awesome thought, and it doesn't really feel very good. So what happens is that once we have that thought, then our brain automatically goes around inside the brain and it finds all the thoughts that are similar to that. And it begins to build momentum. And once it begins to build momentum, there are chemical reactions that are happening inside of the brain. And your body actually makes this like cool little chemical cocktail in response to the thoughts. And then what happens is that cool little chemical cocktail is then released throughout the body. Well, your cells, if you remember this from biology back in freshman year in high school or whenever you took it. So our cells then inside of our body, and all of our cells inside of our body, I mean, they're a little bit different, but they're basically the same. They have these little receptor sites. So they've got one that's like a square and one that's like a diamond and one that's like a circle, right? So on the cell membrane, right, if you remember the membrane that's around, there's little receptor sites. And so now that we've got this cool chemical concoction that's been released from the brain, goes down into the body, and now obviously the circle goes into the circle and the triangle goes into the triangle. It's like, a perfect fit. So now once these little chemical concoctions get inside of the cell is then, oh, cool. Hey, man, what's that? I know what to do. And it stimulates the opening of the nucleus, which has got your DNA inside of there. And it opens it up and it's like, make these hormones, because these hormones are representations of what the brain is telling us to make with these thoughts. So then the body opens up the DNA, the little cell opens up the DNA, and then it creates the little proteins, which creates the little hormones, and then they get sent out into the body. So now we've got these hormones that are released from the cell that now are floating through the body that are telling the body what to do based upon what you were thinking. Do you see now how easy it is to get caught up in a cycle of negativity and finding it really hard to get out? Because then this cool little hormone here goes traveling through the body, setting off another cascade of events because all hormones work together. None of them work independently of the rest. So this hormone is going to trigger this one, which is going to trigger that one, which is going to trigger this one. And oftentimes what ends up happening is we end up in this like cycle of our body trying to balance these hormones, doing the best that it can. And then our thinking is disrupting the whole process here, or not even disrupting it, but it's keeping it stimulated. So now this hormone now goes up back to the brain and it's like, hey, we feel like shit. It's like, oh my God, we totally do. What are we going to do about that? And then we go finding more thoughts that are similar to that because the body is now telling the brain how we feel. And the brain is like, yeah, I totally get it. Here's more thoughts that are just like it, creating more chemicals, creating even more of the hormones down there. What a mess. So there's two other things that I really want you to know about this crazy scribble process that I've been talking about. First of all, this is a similar process of what happens with food, especially foods that release a bunch of dopamine, like sugar, flour, alcohol, processed foods, super high fatty, sugary, buttery, whatever. Processed foods have the very similar effect where the brain goes, woo, releases some chemicals, goes down into the brain, opens up the cell, makes the hormones, and we have this whole process. It's like a feedback loop that tells me, I want more of this. And you're like, oh, I'm making more of this. I feel like crap and I need to eat more sugar. Okay, I feel like crap and need to eat more sugar. We feel like crap and need to eat more sugar. And this is actually how what Dr. Lustig calls, he says what happens is that whole cycle of negativity and processed food crap that's like sending us all out of whack is changing our physiology. So what happens is that the DNA is the same, but what these chemicals are, how the chemicals are transcribing, so the information that they're saying to get from your DNA is not the same as what it would be if you were thinking happy thoughts and eating broccoli and salad and chicken and fresh, alive, and vibrant foods. It is a different sequence. It's a different representation of the same DNA, but it's a different representation of, it's a different little piece of it. Ooh, so that's how you get a very different experience. And ladies, you know what I'm talking about, because when you are on a negative path and you are like in the gaining weight phase where you're like afraid to gain the weight and you're trying to diet and you're having all this negativity and it's just this like cycle of hell. Well, 150 pounds on your way up to 200 is totally different than if you're eating the right foods and you're getting the support and you're doing the meditation and you're starting to feel really good and you're starting to lose the weight that you no longer need and your energy is coming back and your sleep is better. So that same number on the scale, 150, is so different on the way down to 135. Do you get what I'm saying here? The life experience is completely different because the way in which the body, right, is actually expressing its DNA is different. It's completely different. This is called epigenetics. So it's like above genetics. Even though your genes have not changed, the representation of what the gene is saying has completely transformed based on the input. So there's one other thing that I really want you to understand about this process. So now understanding what we just learned, I want to explain to you how and why we can actually become addicted to certain foods, typically sugar and processed foods, right? I'm not talking about like an apple, right? I'm talking about like the actual processing of the sugar from the apple, where they take it and they concentrate it and they make it into a powder, right? That kind of addictive. So what happens is that what we were just talking about, we had the cell, right? And the DNA is in the middle. And you've got the little receptor sites right here. Well, say that you have the square, and the square is, we'll just call it sugar, right? Like table sugar, you know what I mean? Like processed sugar. And there's like 140 different names for that kind of processing of sugar. But say that we got it, it like releases a bunch of dopamine, the body's like, woohoo, and like some other concoction of chemicals, that's what gets released. And we have like one square, right? We have one receptor site that is taking it in. Well, what happens is that then, we take it in, it's got the glucose, the whole thing happens. You then are going to feel satisfied. Let's call it gummy bears, right? You're going to feel satisfied with one gummy bear because your cell's like, I got what I needed. Thank you very much. It creates a little thing. And it's like, we're satisfied. Well, what happens is that it's dose dependent, and the dose at which this really takes off and becomes a problem is different for each person. I know my mom, she said, because she was a binge eater for a really long time and had a lot of problems with her weight. And she said, at one point she finally just got rid of the sugar completely. And people were like, oh my God, that's like so hard. Like, how could you do that? And she's like, I think that like all human beings are given like a certain amount, right, of like processed added sugar that your body can handle in one lifetime. She's like, I just ate all mine before I was 20. I'm like, girl, I could totally relate to that. So what happens though is that when we're having like a bombardment, right, which is what's happening right now in our food system, because 80% of the food that you get at the grocery store all have added sugar, and it's just hard on the body. It's hard on the liver. It's just too much for the system to navigate and to handle. And so this is one of the things that happens. So now we've got like all of these squares, right? Now we've got squares all over the place. We've got a whole bunch of them. Well, the cell's like, whoa, man, okay, I'm gonna figure this out, right? And it starts to make more receptor sites to deal with, because it can tell, right, to deal with all the squares, all the sugar, all the stress that's all around. So now we're getting more, we're getting more, we're getting more. But what happens is that once we try and like go off of it a little bit, we're like, oh, you know what? Like, I think this is a little bit of a problem. I'm having some like craziness with sugar. Like my other parts of my body are not happy. I need to lose some weight. I need some more energy, like whatever it is. We go off, and now we only have, one little square right here, but now we've got like 75 receptor sites all around our cells. Then what happens is we eat that one gummy bear, we have that one cookie or whatever it is, and it's like, boom, all of a sudden it wakes up all of these other squares and it starts to talk to you, your cells. And it's like, that's what cravings are oftentimes. If it's a physical type of craving, your cells are like, feed me. And it talks to you in your own language, which is totally wild. It's like your own voice. It's not like, hey, I'm a cell and I got some extra squares and like, it'd be cool if you got it. No, the way in which it speaks to you is the way in which you are trained to interpret it. So what that means is that if to get the more sugar that it wants, the more gummy bears. If it needs to tell you that you've had a really long day, that, it's okay, just a little bit, you won't do it tomorrow, the kids will never notice, or like whatever. And it's kind of like sneaky and sly, and it like talks to you like that, it will do it, right? That is the translation of the vibration that you are feeling and hearing from your cells. Well, if it has to be mean, if your translation of that experience is you're such an idiot, you can never do anything, you might as well just eat because you're never going to lose the weight anyway, or like whatever, that kind of negativity, then that's what you will hear. It's the same thing happening on the inside, but the translation of that vibration is it's translated by your brain. And so it's screaming at you to have more. And however that needs to be translated for you to do it, that's what it's going to use. So you can probably tell if you're the kind of person that can like hold off until it starts to get mean. And then you're like, whatever, I don't care. Just give me the freaking gummy bears. Then that's what it will do. So we all have a different way in which we translate the vibration of what our cells are trying to say to us. So that's deep, right? That's deep. So oftentimes ladies will come to me and they'll be like, well, at this time of my life, and this is what's going on, and, menopause, and my hormones are changing, and like everything is out of control. And I don't even know what to do. Like I need some kind of like specialized treatment. I get it. I totally get it. And if you want to go to someone who like specializes in that, awesome. Guaranteed that if they do not tell you to clean up your food first, that your thinking, your eating, your drinking, and your doing matter, then you are not talking to the right person. They're just going to give you a bunch of pills that are going to try and like, put band-aids on whatever's happening, control this hormone and control that hormone and do all the things. Well, that is totally an inaccurate way to go about actually balancing your hormones. Listen, your hormones are supposed to change and they all interact with each other. Menopause is a totally natural and normal and wonderful and beautiful time of life. It is a perfect natural occurrence of what happens inside of the body. And if you are doing everything that you can to be eating, drinking, thinking, and doing in alignment with the full health of the entire body, your body will naturally raise the hormones that it needs to raise to keep it a comfortable experience for you as it's changing the exact dynamics of the estrogen and progesterone. Because we have dozens of other hormones. And again, they're all interacting and playing with each other. So first things first, if you really want to help balance your hormones, you really want to help your body regulate all the different processes inside of the body that your hormones are responsible for regulating: your mood, your energy, your sleep, your digestion, your sex drive, your cravings, your perception of reality, all of that is regulated by your hormones. So yes, if you're eating a bunch of crap and you're drinking every night and you're, binging on whatever you're binging on, you've got a bunch of negative thoughts and you just keep that cycle rolling inside of you. And then you're like, oh my God, menopause, and like, it's going crazy. Like I need some pill. Well, then good luck with that. Quite frankly, good luck with that, because it's going to be a miserable experience. I highly recommend that what you do is that you take a step back and you begin to realize that you have way more control over your hormones than you previously thought. Everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you think, and everything you do create a hormonal response in the body, either favorable to your balance and your energy and your life and a positive perception, or not so favorable. So the first thing that you want to do is begin to clean those up. And then it will become very clear to you what the next step is for you to really be living fully at any age, any phase of your life. All right, ladies, I love you so much. I'm so freaking proud of you.